Thank you for attending today's webinar on the EZLeagues Scheduling Wizard. Special guest presenter, the Scheduling Wizard creator himself, Dave Rapien. Today's agenda, Dave will cover creating an even team league, creating an odd team league, and creating a double elimination tournament.
Okay, what we're going to do first is look at some of the leagues, and we're going to create a league that has an even number of teams in it. So right here we do have a league that has an even number of teams, and we're going to hit edit. We will generate the schedule, and it comes into the scheduling wizard. In this case, we're going to start actually with the men's indoor league that has 8 teams. It should be relatively easy because you'll have 4 games per week for the league. And what you do next, you can schedule multiple leagues at the same time, even if they have a different number of teams. But we're just going to do one league for this purposes. In here we have multiple locations. And since we are doing an indoor soccer league, we would like to use basketball courts because it's a special type of soccer league. We're going to use 2 courts for this. The next thing that you're going to do is choose your weekdays. With the weekdays, we'll start in the future, and that could be any time. A league cutoff date actually stops the league midstream. I do not suggest you use that, but it will just cut every game after that. We may say that this is a Tuesday night league, and we have games starting at 7 o'clock p.m. And the games for this particular league are going to be 75 minutes in length. So we add a time, and you'll notice that it automatically goes to 8:15. We'll add a second time, and that's all we should need, because we will have 4 games, 2 locations, 2 times on Tuesday nights. We can adjust the settings. Each team plays 1 game per week for a total of 7 games. It knows how long the league needs to go in order to have a full league played. This can be as many or as few games as you want. So if we want to go 9 games, everybody would play 2 other teams twice during the season. You can begin the games at a different pairing. This will let you mix up the team pairings a little bit by starting at a different week, but it will not actually change the fact that everybody's going to get to play each other. This is just used if everyone's always playing the same type of leagues, that you might have a different end game. Removing a previously scheduled games is always suggested to be on. That will remove previous games scheduled on this league. If you're adding to the league, you want to take that off so that you don't destroy the games that have already been played. We always try to avoid double booking facilities. We do not want to remove unschedulable games. We want to know that those games need to be scheduled. And back-to-back doubleheaders, it would actually make 18 games because every team would play a back-to-back doubleheader at the same location and would play the same team twice with a switching of the home and away. You can move any games from one date to another date, but what you would do is move games from an original date to a date after the season is over. So if you're playing on the 4th of July and you don't want to do that, you can move the games from the 4th of July to the 27th of August. One of the nice things you have the option of doing is setting up team preferences. So with team preferences, if a team has preferences, you can see them here. You may remove them, or if you'd like to, you can say that a team, let's say that team 1 prefers to play at 7 o'clock and they have a preference of that. You may save that preference. When you go to set the schedule, you can see that each of the teams play properly on their home and aways. They are balanced on the locations, and on time slots, team 1 has all 7 o'clock games, and everyone else is balanced as well as possible, considering that they've taken all the 7 o'clock games from us. Weekdays, we're only playing on Tuesdays. If you wanted to, you could have them play at more than 2 locations. What will happen is that you can say that we're playing at 4 locations. If we only have 8 teams playing, really they need 4 locations. They'd only need 1 time. If we're playing on 2 times already on Tuesday nights, what new options you have as you go through the settings, you may choose that they're going to play all 7 o'clock games the first week and then 8 o'clock games the second week. The way you do that is to rotate 1 spot down. So the first week will be at 7, the next week will be at 8:15, the third week at 7, the fourth week at 8:15. Let's view the balancing of that. Locations, slots, and weekdays. Notice the time preference doesn't make sense if all you have is 7 o'clock games, then 8:15 games. So the team preferences for a time slot won't necessarily make sense. However, if we decide to go fewest locations, we're used for a social league, The reason for this is we want people to be able to see each other. You'll notice that they're playing all the games as quickly as possible on as few locations as possible. Most social leagues would like to be able to scout each other, whereas competitive leagues, you want them all to play at the same times. You can't only use one location for this because we don't have enough times, but we could use 2 locations and it will show you that. Or we could use 3 locations and it would set those up as well. Using this drop-down list lets you set up which locations you'd like to use. We might also decide, if I use 2 locations, to move these over to the other 2 courts every other game. So in that case, I would rotate 2 spots to the left. So the first 2 games we're playing out on red and blue, the second 2 games we'll play at white in the dance studio. If we look at the balancing, you'll notice that with locations, it is still very well balanced. Time slots, however, Team 1 was able to take all the 9 o'clock time slots. Everyone else was balanced throughout. That makes for very easy scheduling with your different with your different teams. They shouldn't be able to complain when they have the same number of time slots at each place. You say, I balanced you as well as possible. The way that the team preferences works, preference takes preference over balancing. Priority takes preference over preference. And if you don't have any preferences, then they're going to balance everyone out as well as possible. The next thing I'd like to show you is a odd team league. So this is a ice hockey with only 7 teams. I'm going to go to the locations here. We're going to use the same 4 locations. So I don't need 4 locations, but we're going to keep those 4 locations. Times and dates. We use the exact same times and dates we were doing before. With the settings, each team's going to play 1 game, a total of 9 games in total. Now, for 7 teams, all you really need is a 7-game season, and everyone will play 6 games because each team should have a bye. You'll notice now that it is an odd number of teams, there's this option for bye game scheduling options. No opponent, no location means that I'm going to schedule anyone who has a bye that week. I'm not going to schedule a location or an opponent for them. That is the most common of all the ways that we would schedule this. The different options are a bye filler, no opponent use location, and rotate league team. The no opponent use location will mean that even though they have a bye, I'm going to schedule a time and location for that team to play, although they'll have no opponent. This way they can use the location for a practice or something of that sort. Bye filler, every other week there's 2 teams that have byes. It will take the team from the second week and put them against the team in the first week. Therefore, half the teams will have double headers and half the teams will have a bye every other week. It makes it for finishing your season a little bit sooner. The rotate league team takes teams from the last game of the season. When that last person would have a bye, it takes that last team and it has them play each of those games during the week. What's nice about that is it gives each team a second game across the board, except for that last team, they're playing a series of double headers. We're going to go ahead and look at team preferences and finalize the schedule. You'll notice they only need 3 locations because we're not playing with byes in this case. If we go back to the settings and we choose one of the other 3, bye filler for example, you'll notice that it needs an extra team for that, or an extra game for that bye. When we view the balancing, everyone's balanced. Locations, relatively balanced. Time slots, very balanced. And weekdays, they have 10 games, everybody else has 9 because this one team had a doubleheader. So those are some of the pieces for just scheduling regular games. We can set the games and it would set the games into the system. I'm going to click on tournaments. There's no tournaments found right now, so I'm going to create a new tournament. I hit add tournament and we use a series of options. We can do a round robin tournament. That would be just a regular everyday league where we're playing a league but we call it a tournament. You have single elimination tournaments, double elimination tournaments, pool play tournaments, and 3-game guaranteed tournaments. The single elimination we've all done. The double elimination allows you to make sure that everyone must play at least 2 games before they get knocked out. Pool play is where you bring a large number of people into your facility, and a large number of teams, and they're going to play in pools. And then the winners of the pools would go into a single or double elimination tournament. The other tournament that's kind of fun is a 3 games guaranteed. Now this requires 8 teams because you're going to play, the initial 4 teams play each other, The winners will play each other, the losers will play each other, and the winners and the winners and the losers of the winners, as well as the winners of the losers and the losers of the losers, will play each other. This keeps everyone matched up, and it ends up with a straightforward first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth place. Out of this, every team will play 3 games. It's a fun tournament. I'm going to try a double elimination here, and the name will be a hockey double. These are 10th graders. We will go ahead and put in the fall season. We're going to start in 9/18, and the sport is going to be beanbags. The total number of teams for this, since we couldn't get a lot of teams to come in, we're going to make this a 13-team double elimination tournament and hit add. It generates the teams, or we could have chosen teams from existing leagues and tournaments if you're doing pool plays and then going into this type of tournament. We'd like to generate the schedule now. There are 13 teams, and this is a double elimination tournament. The scheduling summary does show us everything that we're doing right now, and that's always nice to use. I'm going to go ahead and hit locations. For this, I'm going to use a series of locations. I'm going to go to times and dates. What happens with pool play tournaments or any regular tournaments is that you need to say what dates you are going to physically play those games. This is different than a round robin, where you're choosing the day of the week. In this case, I would like to have a weekend tournament to play. The games for the 27th are going to be, so this is our Saturday, we're going to play at 9 a.m. and we'll play those also on the 28th. 9, 10, 11, and 12. But only on the 27th, I'm also going to play at 1, 2, and 3. I don't know if we'll need all these games. We probably won't need them, but we're going to put them in anyway. Bracket preferences for a double elimination. You have all kinds of options. For the lower bracket scheduling, almost always keep this as ABBA. What that will do is make sure that if you get knocked out in the first round, you're not going to see the same team for at least 4 more rounds in the lower bracket until you get to the very end. That's the best way of doing it. AB keeps you in the same brackets every time. Keep winning teams on the same field. That's very nice to have. It makes sure that the upper seed team stays on the same field, but generally I'm trying to make the most money and get these guys done as quickly as possible, so I'll keep that as off. You may, of course, change any of these. There's not 16 teams, but rather there are 13 teams in this tournament. You hit the checkbox and it will save that. Down here, I don't want to call this the bottom bracket quarterfinals. We have a sponsor for this, so this ends up being the Nike round. When you preview the bracket pairings, you will notice there are 13 teams, so 3 teams of the 16-team tournament, Team 1, 2, and 3, should have byes. Team 1 has a bye. Team 2 at the bottom has a bye, and right above them, Team 3 has a bye. And the winners of each of the other tournaments will go into these respective games. Each of the games will be advanced as they go through the tournament, and down below you have who will play which teams.